Oh,
It sure is. Oh my goodness. Yes.
It doesn't look like Tim's going to be winning the Powerball tonight.
Tim, you got to be in it to win it, buddy.
I know. Geez, and I thought the Powerball was tomorrow night.
No, it is. That's okay
so
with me that
out.
you thought it was tomorrow. That's fine. I'll save you the money, Tim, because I already have a very heavy ticket.
Okay, cool.
I can feel it.
You want to go halvesies on your ticket?
Is that how it works, Nick? Is it the weight of the ticket that makes
you can tell.
a winner?
You can tell.
Okay.
It's a heavy one. I can tell it's gonna have a big payday coming with it. Yeah. Oh, there you go, Stevens. I see mine. I left mine downstairs. I didn't bring it to show it off on camera like I should have. But I am in it to win it. What about you, Greg? Are you in the Powerball?
I am not. No.
You're not in it. Oh my goodness.
No,
so let's imagine you were and you won it. What would change tomorrow on the blog?
That's why I'm not in it. What would change? Nothing. I don't know. What would I do differently? Donate a lot more money, to charity, I guess. I don't know. What about you? What would you do?
I don't know what I would do. I would hire a person to figure out what to do with it. That's what I would do. I've always said
that's a good idea.
The first person I would hire is somebody who is better at managing $1.2 million or $1 billion rather, because I need some expertise with that level.
So someone smart enough not to buy Twitter probably is what you want.
Right. Hopefully. But we heard about this the Capital One pre-sale for Taylor Swift tickets today, and my wife is a big Swiftie, so I'd buy some Taylor Swift tickets probably to surprise her. There's the big splurge, because there's nothing crazy that I think I would buy, and I wouldn't stop working for Frequent Miler. I mean, I enjoy doing what I'm doing. Maybe we'd find 3 more Tims and 2 more Stevens, or 5 more Stevens and 3 more Tims or something, I guess. But I don't know. I don't, day to day, I don't think much would change. So
I think we should hire more Carries, actually.
Well,
there you go.
If you could find another Carrie,
right.
But
seems
clearly
doubtful. No.
Or you could buy Mosquito Island, maybe.
Hey, there you go.
Hey, that could be good. Yeah, make that our headquarters.
Fun times. The Frequent Miler headquarters. I like it.
I like that idea too.
So my question for you, Nick, is if you win Powerball, are you still buying gift cards from Lowe's?
I mean, I probably will skip a couple of the Lowe's deals for a while, but I'll write about them so you can. How's that?
Okay.
or that would just give you infinite float to be able.
Well, right.
So that's
maybe I just buy lots.
Does your volume go up?
Yeah, I mean, we'd have. I mean, I guess there'd be little risk, right, of getting shut down, because it'd be like, whatever, it'll be okay. So maybe I would. Maybe I just go absolutely crazy, so I could write all about it. All right, so let's do some questions. People have more interesting questions probably than the Powerball. Let's see what Kevin's got for us. Kevin asks, if you had player 2 as an employee card on the Wyndham card, the Wyndham Business card, the Wyndham Business earner, will that affect their 524 status?
And the answer is no. Because business cards in general usually don't affect your 524 status, and certainly personal cards are no different on that level.
That's right. Another question that's kind of related that we get all the time is if you're an authorized user on somebody's card, or if somebody's an authorized user on your card, will that prevent them from getting the sign-up bonus on their own? And I can't think of a single situation where it will. People ask this all the time. If they're an authorized user on my Sapphire Reserve, will that prevent them from getting a Sapphire Reserve bonus on their own? Or, same thing with AmEx cards, blah, blah, blah. And the answer is always no. It doesn't prevent them, apart from the 524 count, and initially people being over 524, the authorized user cards could kind of contribute to that. But in the sense of like, can they get the sign up bonus for that card? Can they be eligible for it? Yeah, absolutely. Being an authorized user isn't going to stop them. So
yeah,
there you go.
And just to say, a footnote on that one, there was earlier this year, there was a brief second where a couple of Barclays business cards were showing up on people's credit reports. But that, and people are still asking about that, but that was just a short-term issue that doesn't seem to be happening anymore. That only happened for about 2 or 3 weeks.
There you go. Great. All right. I guess I'll continue reading here. Number 2, ECR. Let's see. ECR asks, what hard to get award would excite you the most if availability opened up? Flight or hotel? What would excite you the most? Ooh, I'm
All
interested
right.
to hear everybody's answers here.
Yeah, Tim, do you want to take a crack at this one first?
Yeah, for me, the immediate thing is so my sister turned 50 in 2020 in her bucket list. And so for her trip, I told her that I would give it, or she wanted to take about a 5 or 6 week 50, like a 50-year-old sojourn solo. And I told her that I would get her a round trip business anywhere in the world. And of course she picked New Zealand. Which is,
and you're like, well, anywhere but that,
I was like,
or Australia.
Yeah, I was anything in the world that was within the lower 48. And so she and I actually got her a round trip business, but it was in November of 20. Availability just happened to open up for one route on either side of her trip, and then it was 2020, so it all got canceled. And now she's doing it again this year, and of course awards are brutal to Australia and New Zealand. So I would love it if somebody could sprinkle their magical fairy dust on a New Zealand award. I would certainly appreciate it.
Yeah.
What about you, Greg?
For me, I would love to try ANA's new seat setup where they have the I forget what they call them, but the business class has a name, like the room, and the first class is the suite, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. So I would love to do a round trip where I take business class on the way out and then first class on the way back, and try them both, and definitely in that order, because I hear great things about their business class, but I still think it would probably be a little bit of a letdown after first class. So yeah, that's probably top of mind. If I hadn't already done Necker Island, of course, that would be a great one. How about you, Stephen?
Probably Singapore first. Can't think of anything else in particular that we don't already have, because we got Q Suites booked for a trip in a couple of months, so I'll get to experience that finally. So that's what I wanted to try for a while.
So Singapore Suites in particular, I imagine. Yeah.
Very good. Yep. That was the first thing on my mind, but when I thought about it more as he said that, I thought, I think hotel availability. If I could get another 5-day stay at a reasonable price at the St. Regis Bora Bora. I don't have enough Marriott points right now is the problem, but if I did anyway, that would probably be one that would really appeal to me. I haven't seen 5 days of availability there in a long time now. So
interesting.
So
yeah.
That would be a good
That's great.
one. All right. Good question there. David asks us, hi guys, I got the Hyatt business for the double night promotion with hopes of keeping Globalist. Do you see Hyatt and American Airlines getting together and offering an American Airlines executive platinum or higher for Globalist in the future? What do you think?
I don't think so.
Certainly wouldn't expect it to be higher than executive platinum. They could conceivably offer executive platinum, but at the moment, with how much easier, I guess, it is to earn American Airlines status now, there might not be as much incentive for Hyatt and American Airlines to partner on that kind of thing.
I think they did that once as hey, we're partnering and let's get people excited about it promo. I don't think they're going to do it again. It's my guess.
Yeah. I think you guys are probably totally correct on that. So, all right. So that's that. We think probably not. But I do think that there will be something for Explorer status. So that looks like that's going to probably hang around, but probably not Globalist. We can all hope. Jose asks, would you advise against using Staples fee-free gift cards to meet 100% of the Chase in cash sign-up bonus minimum spend? What do you think? So the in cash now, 90,000 point welcome bonus. So huge bonus, requires some spend. And hey, Visa gift cards are fee-free this week at Staples. You can buy $1,600 a pop. I mean, eight per customer per day. So what do you think? Is it safe to meet the bonus spend that way?
Can I rephrase this question slightly?
Sure.
Has anybody ever heard of anybody getting shut down because of buying Staples gift cards on an ink?
Nope.
Single data.
No. I mean, I guess there's been stories of people getting shut down overall for heavy hitting MS, but no, I mean, not that I can think, not just no. The answer to Tim's question is no.
Yeah. And along those lines, I would feel comfortable doing, what is it, 6K is a spend requirement, I think.
Yeah,
I think
So you're getting another you're getting 30K by getting 5x on all that spend. Yeah, I would do it.
that's smart thinking, Jose.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So then let's see. Lindsay says, Stephen, have you encountered tons of ghost availability in the Capital One spring Priceline deals? Hopefully you know what she's talking about when she says ghost availability in the spring deals. What do you think?
I don't know anything about ghost availability in the Priceline deals. I'd mentioned about the Capital One spring Priceline thing at the Chicago seminar, so I'm guessing that's what it's about, or maybe just from the post on Frequent Miler.
Lindsay was indeed there.
I've never actually booked myself through Capital One Spring and Priceline, so I've not encountered anything like that. Like, I've done a bunch of searches before just to see if there's anything that's like such an outstanding deal for a hotel I was actually interested in. But no, I've personally not encountered that. But that's strange that would be the case. So I'm curious if that's ghost availability where it's initially showing up mispriced and you can book the same room but at a higher price, or if it just means that it's showing a price you click through and it's just simply not there. But no, I've not heard anything about that, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything on that either. So best of luck figuring that out. We don't know about it. Sorry, Lindsay.
Sounds really frustrating.
Yeah. Derek says, life events, best way to get to the Philippines. Use Chase or AmEx. Who's got an idea? Best way to the Philippines.
Who's gone to the Philippines recently?
Well, I have. I don't know if I have the best way to the Philippines necessarily. The way that I did it was I booked through Aeroplan, because that gives you access to all sorts of Star Alliance partners. So you could take a kind of crazy routing. Well, all sorts of Star Alliance and non-Alliance partners with Aeroplan.
So if Chase or AmEx had a transfer partner right now to Aeroplan, that might be a good option.
A transfer bonus, I think you mean, because yes, it is transfer partners with both. But yes, so Chase would be the best right now because there's a 30% transfer bonus through November 30th. So you would need 115,000 ultimate reward. No, I'm sorry, rather 115,000 Aeroplan miles in order to book somewhere in the US to the Philippines, or at most that much. If you're flying from the West Coast, it might be a little less even. But from the East Coast or taking a long route, at max 115,000. So that's about 90,000-ish ultimate rewards points with the 30% bonus, I think. So that's a very good deal, good way to get there. There's probably better ways. I mean, if you get the right mixed cabin award with LifeMiles, it'll cost you fewer miles. What comes to your mind, Tim? I see you shaking your head. You must have an
No, I was
idea.
thinking LifeMiles, like doing a mixed cabin LifeMiles. ANA would be a terrific option. ANA does fly. I mean, you'd have to connect through Tokyo.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, that would be that's probably your cheapest bet, because you could probably book round trip for less than 120 anyway. I don't know for sure where the Philippines falls in that. And then the other option, if you can find Cathay Pacific availability, is using Alaska miles, be 50,000 miles each way in business class. So that would also be a terrific option. I assume Cathay Pacific flies to Manila, but they're not going to fly anywhere else in the Philippines. Of course, don't worry about wherever you want to end up in the Philippines. Just worry about getting to Manila probably, or maybe Cebu, because there's some large airlines that fly there. Within the Philippines, flights are ridiculously cheap. Like, I saw flights from $16 each way between different parts of the Philippines. So, and certainly like the expensive flights were like $40 or $50. So you can get just about anywhere from Manila within the Philippines relatively cheaply. So just focus on getting to the large cities anyway, and then you could book a separate ticket from there.
Yeah, and if you do see Cathay availability, Chase or Amex isn't going to help you get Alaska miles to book that cheaply, but Cathay could be using Cathay Asia miles, which transfer from Amex, could be a decent way to go, especially if you're lucky enough to find first class to Hong Kong. I don't know if they're flying that again yet from the States, but that could be a good way to go, and adding on the flight to the Philippines, which would probably be in business class at best, would actually reduce the price a little bit over the first class price to Hong Kong. So it's kind of an interesting hack there.
There you go. Yeah, that is a very interesting hack and a smart one to use. So there you go. You got a whole bunch of different ways. The really the concise answer to your question is the best way to get to the Philippines is the way you can actually find availability, because all of those options we just gave you can be pretty good, but it can be difficult sometimes finding availability when you want to go. So you got to look around and see which of those is available. But what you should probably do, Derek, is look at, we've got, first of all, if you go to our resources page on Frequent Miler, which you can click resources at the top of any page, you'll find a best ways to get to Asia post that tells you all the best ways and who transfers, with which credit card programs. And then we also have a Chase Ultimate Rewards Sweet Spots post and an AmEx Membership Rewards Sweet Spots post. And those are also going to have those the best options for getting to different parts of the world. So that you'll find again on our resources page. And then you can see, okay, well, which of these have availability? Because it shows you right in those resources, okay, how do you search for availability? How do you book it? So that should hopefully help you.
So
right.
now that you've said that, I was going to drop a link in the chat. Okay, there we go. It looks like it's under Best Awards by Destination. So I'll add a link into that just in case you were going to try doing a Control F for Sweet Spots or something like that.
Very good. Very
Great.
Thank you.
Just a
Thank
second.
you for that. All right. Let's see. Matt, who I think I met at the Chicago seminars, right? Matt asks, have you, good to see you again. Have you considered bringing guests onto the pod? I think there's a crossover with the audience of flight review vlogs that the viewership could benefit from points and miles. So I think what he's suggesting there is that the people that do flight review vlogs, their viewership could potentially benefit from people like us that show you how to do it.
Yeah. The answer is no. We don't think of our show as a guest interview podcast. We don't do that. We have a set format for a show that we're pretty happy with, but we would be interested in being guests on other podcasts and talking to them that way. So if there's any podcasts that you enjoy that you think we would be good guests on, let us know, or better yet, let that other podcast know that we'd be potentially willing to be guests on their show.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think there are a lot of different audiences that could benefit from this kind of content, and we enjoy the podcast format. So we would love to be able to do that. All right. Yifty says, what banks let you pay their credit card with a debit card over the phone or online? I'll let somebody else take this one.
Who wants to give away their secrets?
Yeah. So
go ahead, Tim. You got
the most, and this is there's a can of worms here, and it's a fairly large can of worms. Probably the most common one that people use is Citi, and you can and I'm going to say you can do this, but saying that there's a lot of gauntlets along the way that can trip you up. But you can pay Citi over the phone. They have an automated system over the phone that you can use gift cards, $200 gift cards at a time, to purchase some gift cards to pay your Citi bill. The problem is it's only good for only certain bank identification numbers, which are the first four numbers of the credit card or the gift card, debit card, can be used on Citi. And there's lots of resources that you can use you can use on various Reddit forums, et cetera, that'll kind of talk you through some of that stuff. And the other problem is that you can get shut down for this. We have seen people that have gone crazy. And now when we say crazy, it's granted, it tends to be people that are doing 5 to 4, 5, 6 figures a month, and then paying and cycling credit or credit limits and so forth. But if Citi does look at it and see that you've been making a bunch of $200 payments to liquidate gift cards, it can be they can frown on that, and so people have been shut down by it.
Which can affect the people who are authorized users on your cards and things too. So
every card that you have, any outlet that you have.
So careful. The answer there. Careful. Know what you're doing before you dive in. Like test the waters with your toes and ask questions. And I think that's a good general rule of thumb for anything where you're like, ooh, does this work? Go slow. All right. So Ganesh says, I regret getting Marriott Boundless, as whenever I try to use the free night certificate, none of the hotels show availability, like during the summer in any Paris hotel. So was that a mistake getting the Bonvoy Boundless card?
Was it a mistake?
Well, I
There's
mean,
no-
like nowadays you can top it up with 15,000 points. That should mean you could book any hotel that has award availability for 50k points, which I don't know what Marriott charges for hotels in Paris in the summer, but maybe it's higher than that, and probably due to go higher in a few months' time once they loosen the limits on how much they can charge for awards. But I'd have thought like that it shouldn't be too hard to find like some kind of hotel you want to stay at in order to redeem them.
Yeah, I mean, Paris has been tough. I was in Paris this summer, and hotels are ridiculously expensive, and a lot of them weren't available using points. You're right, but I mean that's one city in kind of a vacuum. I've been getting great value out of my free night certificates with Marriott. I mean, I've easily been getting places that are like a penny a point or even better. So I think those certificates honestly have become really valuable because prices are so high. And so where I've been finding value though has not been like autograph collection and higher end stuff. It's been residence inns that would have cost me $250, $300 if I wanted to stay in that place at that time, that I'm able to use a 35k cert for and maybe get a 1-bedroom suite or that sort of thing. So it's been useful for me that way. Those 35k certs are probably not going to get you super luxurious hotels these days, but they might get you something that'll save you a lot more than the $95 a year, $99 a year, whatever it is. I think. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys? Anybody want to argue against me on that?
No, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Going on.
I agree. It's cities like Paris and New York and London where it's going to be really hard to use, but almost anywhere else you should be able to find good uses, and Marriott is pretty much anywhere else. So
Yep. That's the thing. They're everywhere. Right.
To emphasize Stephen's point too, Ganesh, like if you don't just look, and maybe you are already, I'm not sure, but make sure that you're looking up to 50,000 points for that cert, because that cert can be usable for anything up to 50,000 points. Don't just don't be bound by your Boundless cert. Having 35k, because it can be used in other brilliant, bountiful ways.
There might be a bevy of them, in fact.
There might be.
You guys are brilliant. All right, so I find it pretty easy to get good value out of that. But yeah, I mean, Paris in particular has been tough, and any of the like Paris, New York, London, those places have been just so expensive. I mean, I'm going to stay in New York City next weekend, and it just is outrageous the cost of hotels. Like standard rooms at like Courtyards and Residences, like $450 a night, which at this time of year, it's just never like that in New York. Mm-hmm. So that was it's sticker shock for sure. And I found awards, but not with Marriott, truth be told.
So just out of interest, how much is IHG? Like, have you been checking IHG? I'm assuming you have been, because I feel like when I've been looking for screenshots for posts, IHG in New York has been priced ridiculously cheap, at least for award nights anyway. I haven't been paying attention to paid pricing, but it feels like there's been some super low pricing when I've looked.
No, well, not for the dates that I've been looking at, I guess, but I don't find it hard to believe, because IHG's been good in a lot of ways, a lot of places this past year. I mean, you mentioned Paris, and I stayed in Paris this summer for 25,000 IHG points per night at the Crown Plaza, because they ran that little, flash sale thing. And that was a place that was 350 or 400 euros a night. So you can do really well with IHG sometimes, unfortunately, not for the dates that I need, but I was looking at Ambassador. I was thinking, oh, well, maybe I'll buy Ambassador and I'll just pay 2 nights for the Intercontinental there, because, usually they're not that unreasonably priced. And I was like, what? The Intercontinental, like Barclays is $562 a night or something. I mean, I know Intercontinentals tend to be expensive, and if you've just looked at New York during holiday periods, maybe you'd be like, oh, well, of course it's $500 a night for the Intercontinental. But to put that in perspective, I looked at a weekend in January and it's like $250 a night. So, and that's more what I expect at this time of year usually. But who am I? So anyway, long story short, we think it's worthwhile, but maybe it was a mistake for you if that's the only place you wanted to use the certificates. Of course, you can downgrade that to the Bold for no annual fee if you prefer, or upgrade to the Ritz, and then you'd have an 85k cert that should hopefully be very easy to use.
That might get you into a residence inn in Paris.
Right. Right. All right. Darla says, best way to use LifeMiles domestically within the United States. Fly United, Darla.
Yeah, there's only one way.
That's the only way. Yeah, I mean, and certain flights are really cheap with LifeMiles within the United States. They have these weird zone definitions, but if you fly within a certain zone, what is it, 7K one way? Am I
7,500, but they got rid of it,
7,500.
and now there's some that price less. There's not really any that price more, I don't think. But the eastern zone is Maine until South Carolina. The central-ish zone is kind of like the Dakotas down to Florida. It includes Texas and Arizona, Florida, and then the west zone is basically the West Coast states. So if you're within one zone, it's 7,500 miles each way in economy. It's 10 each way in business. If you can find availability, good luck. And then between zones 1 and 2 is also a good deal. I believe it's 10K economy, 15K business. And so that covers, like, again, Maine through like middle of the country, Texas, Dakotas, that sort of a line somewhere around there. I can't remember exactly where the line ended, but somewhere in the middle. So those would be typically your best ways, but really you got to look. You just got to look them up, because there's these weird routes that'll sometimes price at 3,500 miles or something. So got to look where you want to go. But the big problem, though, big caveat with LifeMiles is United has not been releasing much saver availability. I mean, my goodness, finding availability to book a United flight with partner miles is like a chore these days. So that's the biggest problem you're going to run into right now. United's just being stingy. All right, 11. Let's see. Next question up here from Jay. The AA shopping portal usage got me to Platinum Pro. The 50,000 miles more needed for Executive Platinum. Is it worth the fight? Shopping portal big wins seem to have dried up. Is it only 50K more to get to Executive Plat?
Let me.
No, it's more than that, isn't it?
It feels like it would be more.
I thought it was quite a bit more.
75. It's 125 to 200.
To 200, yeah. So 75K. So if you're a Platinum Pro with 125K, is it worth going the rest of the way to Executive Platinum?
There's only one Executive Platinum here.
Yeah. What do you say, Stephen?
I haven't been flying with AA quite enough to really kind of justify that, but I got it for free back in the day, courtesy of Hyatt, but that it's finally due to be ending in a few months unless they're somehow generous and extend it for another year. But I think that's going to be pretty doubtful. The other thing to consider with Executive Platinum is that you don't get anything like system-wide upgrades if you just earn it through loyalty points, because you need, is it 30 segments for
30?
that?
Yeah.
And so you might get a better chance of complimentary upgrades to first class on your flights with Executive Platinum compared to Platinum Pro. But for some of the other benefits, it might not be worth making that much effort if you think that you're going to be getting the kind of traditional benefits of Executive Platinum.
Yeah, I agree. And in fact, in general, if you are going to be traveling 30 segments, then you probably are using the you're flying American Airlines enough where whatever difference there is between those two levels of elite status probably will be meaningful to you. But if you're not flying 30 segments anyway, then you're just probably not flying American enough for it to matter. So the answer is probably no. Don't bother.
Yep. Agreed. Okay, Marcus says, for ANA around the world, would you recommend taking advantage of business class seats opening up 2 to 3 weeks out by first booking an entire itinerary that's 2 to 3 months long and then making changes along the way? Craig, what say you?
Yeah, I mean, So
I think the idea is
really
how do you? I think what he means is, can you book an ANA around the world? And then how would you take advantage of business class seats that open up like 2 to 3 weeks before departure? Because a lot of the best stuff tends to open up at the last minute. So how would you book it so that you can you take advantage of those seats that become available?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely can, and there's a lot of different ways to play it. But I mean, that's one way. Yeah, you could book business class when you see it, which is what I think he's saying. Like if he's seeing it 2 to 3 months in advance, so book it now for then, and then keep changing it to forward in the future till when you really want it. Yeah, you could do that, but I don't know. I think personally, I would rather book as much as I could for when I actually want to go, and for the routes where business class isn't available, but you're pretty sure that it's going to open up, book economy, so that you get the dates you want. And then as it gets closer, keep looking for those business class awards to open up. If they don't open up on the exact flight you booked on the exact day and time, if you have some flexibility, you could be looking at other days and times. And if business class opens for those other days and times, you can jump on that and just, change your itinerary just a little bit, but it would still be the same route. It would just be different days when you're flying. So I don't know. That's the way I would go about it.
Very good. All right. Nathan asks, have 7 Chase personal cards and 4 Chase business cards. The last several applications have not been immediately approved. I have yet to be declined. Currently under 524. Should I continue applying with Chase? So he's got 7 personal, 4 business. Last 7 have not, or the last several rather, haven't been immediately approved, not instantly approved, but they have been approved. And he's under 524. What do you think?
It's interesting that I'm not really sure in terms of, I think partially it would depend. I mean, if you haven't been declined yet, then you haven't hit the ceiling of whatever, your ceiling is.
Right.
So, I mean, that's really, you don't really know where that is until you get declined. So you're still, but I would say that, like, for me personally, even these days, it's fairly common for me to not get an immediate approval on a Chase card, simply because my credit limit is so high when you add in all of the business and all of the personal cards that I have together. And so oftentimes all the delay is for me to say, yes, I'm okay with moving credit from another card. Or in cases where the card that I'm applying for, like, let's say it has a $5,000 minimum credit and they only have 3. Well, yes, I can move 2,000 from this other card, but there's a certain total credit limit that Chase is willing to extend. And once you start bumping up against that, oftentimes they're perfectly willing to give you a card. They just need to actually verbally talk to you about whether or not you're okay with taking limit from another card. And that can be a really good way about making the total number of cards you have increase, even though the total amount of credit that you have really isn't going up. And so I don't know if that's the case here, but I wonder if that seems like that could be the situation that he's ran into.
Yep. Also, if the last few applications have been business cards and they haven't been immediately approved, I feel like Chase is pretty well known for not approving those ink applications immediately. I mean, the Southwest business, maybe you'll get an instant approval on, but the ink ones, I feel like very few people get an instant approval on those, right?
Yeah,
so
I've had, on
that's
all my
true.
I've had it.
Yeah. So if your last couple of applications were ink cards, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
No.
Yeah, I mean, and another way of saying this all is, I don't think there's any harm in keep trying with Chase until you hit a wall and then move on to other stuff.
Yep. Agreed. Okay. Brian asks, when searching for sweet spot awards, what tools do you use if you have a specific time but don't care about the destination versus you have a specific destination but don't care about the time?
That's a great question.
Yeah. And so I don't know of any great tools for that. Do you guys? I think some of the airlines have their own little things, but they've never seemed very useful to me.
I've had some luck in the past using Google Flights. Has a tool where you can go, say, you can search from the US or from a given city to Europe or to an actual region. And then if you go and look for that region and you see that there are some, say, business class seats or something that are particularly low priced, oftentimes there will, and not always, but oftentimes there will be saver availability for those flights. So that can be a good way of doing it. But I mean, even that is pretty hit and miss.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise I would just say, like, some of the, not like generic ones, but some of the things like Thrifty, Traveler Premium, and Straight to the Point and things like that send out alerts about award availability. They're not necessarily going to always send you things for the dates that you can fly, but if you are getting those kind of updates, then you can just scan those to see what date ranges they're mentioning they're finding award availability in, and then that could help influence where you end up going.
Yeah, I guess one other thing I'll mention that I've done out of Detroit is I've looked at every international destination Detroit has, which is not that large of a list compared to airports like New York and LA and so on. And just look for award availability for those routes and see where I can go. And sometimes you hit a jackpot.
Yep.
So what about the flip side of Brian's question? Like, what do you guys use then if you have a specific destination, but you don't care about the time? So Nick wants to go to St. Regis Bora Bora and doesn't care. Or I mean, I shouldn't say St. Regis. He wants to go to Bora Bora and doesn't care about the time, but no, he knows he wants to go there for a week. Then what?
Well, so then the first thing you do is figure out who goes there. So you go to Flight Connections and figure out which airlines fly there. And you would, for Bora Bora specifically, you'd want to look for who flies into, is it pronounced Papeete, I think, into Tahiti, because that's where you're going to actually find availability to. Figure out who flies in there, and then just figure out the tools you would use to look for availability on those airlines. And you're going to have to search a bunch of times. Now, you could use something like AwardLogic or Point.me in order to cut some of the time down so that you don't have to go to Air France and search for their flight, and go to United, search for United flight, and wherever else there might be. Those are the two that come to mind initially that fly there. But and then it's just a matter of searching, or setting seat alerts on like Expert Flyer, for instance. Though if you don't have a specific time, that's going to be really hard, since you'd have to set seat alerts on specific flights. So I think really at that point it becomes kind of a scatter shot looking for availability, because I don't know if Seat Spy is going to help you really. Would it there, Craig? Could Seat Spy help you?
Seat Spy, I mean, it only covers certain airlines, and unfortunately, they've changed how it works, and so it doesn't necessarily show you just when there's saver availability. It'll show you, like Air France, like every time they have any point awards to anywhere. Right. And so it's kind of useless. I mean, because they have a sort of dynamic pricing scheme. And so that's a shame. I don't think Seat Spy would help much. I think I would look, it would be missing a lot of things, but I think I would look at both American Airlines award calendar and United's, because they both let you search a month at a time. They both, include a number of partners, and and then you could just march month by month. I don't know that Bora Bora is specifically a good example where that would help, but
well, I mean, it would,
as a general approach,
anyway. Yeah.
As a general approach, you could you could potentially stumble on some good things by using those two tools, which, as I said, both will show you a month at a time availability.
And yeah, I was going to mention American Airlines, because then you can also filter it by non-stop routing, and also by business class or economy, or whichever cabin you want to fly in as well. So that can help narrow down specific dates as well. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And, Bora Bora is maybe a good example of the next thing I'm going to say too, is that if it doesn't matter to you when, it also shouldn't matter to you where you fly, probably. And what I mean by that is, for example, Bora Bora. So to get to Tahiti from the United States, you're going to have to fly from San Francisco, Los Angeles, or there's, I think Seattle has an Air Tahiti Nui flight too, right? Mm-hmm. So that's it. Those are the three airports from the United States, or Honolulu. So those are your airports. So look from all of them. Doesn't matter if you live in LA or San Francisco or Honolulu, do the searches from those airports, and then reverse engineer and figure out, okay, I found availability from San Francisco. Now, how can I get to San Francisco from where I start? Do I need to wait for something to show up from LA because there's nothing available to get me to San Francisco right now? But look at the gateways that will get you to the place that you want to go to. Because then maybe you stop, you take a separate flight to San Francisco and spend a couple of days checking out the Golden Gate Bridge or whatever, if time is not a factor for you. Or you go to Honolulu. Like that's something that I did when I went to Bora Bora. We went to Honolulu first because I could use Turkish miles to get there super cheap, and we could hang out in Honolulu for a couple of days and then fly on to Tahiti from there. So that's kind of my strategy there. All right, and I got a post coming tomorrow where I'm going to talk a little bit more about how my strategy for finding awards in general that might answer some of your question, Brian. All right, Jan asks us, I haven't read much about going to India. Are there any sweet spots from the US East Coast to Delhi and back? Yeah. First one that comes to mind is Turkish Miles and Smiles, 52,500 miles each way in business class on Star Alliance Airlines. Of course, you have to find availability on Star Alliance Airlines, and then you have to get Turkish to be able to book that availability. Although I find it much easier to book availability to anywhere that's not a United destination. So, or at least not on United. It's much easier on other Star Alliance routes to find the availability via Turkish's website. And I've seen quite a bit on Air India. So if you want to fly Air India, both the flights from Newark and from Chicago, I've seen a decent amount of availability for next year at 52.5 each way. And I say a decent amount. I mean, you're not going to find it every single day and not like 9 seats or anything, but you'll find it here and there. So that's the best one that comes to my mind. But does somebody else have another idea for India?
American still flies the nonstop from JFK, right? Did they?
I don't know.
They cut off I'm pretty sure that American still has the nonstop from JFK to Delhi. They had Seattle to BLR, but that's been indefinitely delayed. But I think I'm pretty sure the JFK to Delhi is still going. So and then that's flight that's it depends on if you're talking about economy versus premium economy versus business. In the past, I've seen that it's much easier on that flight to get economy and premium economy like business, or than business, like a lot of these. But that can be a good option. I think it's the quickest way to get there from the East Coast.
Yeah, Wikipedia says they do still fly direct from JFK to Delhi.
There you go. There you go. So those are a couple options. The third option, I guess, that's worth mentioning because it may be a little bit easier if you're looking for award availability, and only a little, but maybe a little bit easier, is I think you should be able to fly. Well, you know what? Now I'm going to take it back. I'm not positive. Does anybody know if you can fly Qatar, if you can connect in Doha on the way?
I was going to suggest that too. I'm assuming you can. I haven't looked.
It looks like it looks like they do fly to Delhi via Doha.
Well, I know they do. So, can you book it though via American Airlines because of their weird routing rules about not transiting third regions? I know you can fly Qatar. You can connect in Qatar on the way to Asia. You can connect in Qatar on the way to Africa. I don't know about the Indian subcontinent. I would think you could. But American has weird routing rules.
Also, United flies direct to Delhi from Chicago and Newark. So those are a couple of options if you do want to fly nonstop.
Okay, so there you go. Got some options. There are some ways to get there. The other thing to keep in mind with Star Alliance, if you don't care much about who you fly necessarily, you want to get there, Egypt Air tends to have a lot of availability. I wrote about flying Egypt Air from Washington Dulles to Cairo, and I believe they fly from Cairo to Delhi, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they do. And the flights from New York and Washington, D.C. to Cairo often have 4 or 5 seats in business class. And the 787 that they fly out of Washington, D.C. is about as nice as anybody else's 787. No alcohol, the food's not great, but if you're just looking for a flatbed that's, they'll give you about halfway there anyway. Obviously, you're gonna have to connect, but that could be another option to consider. All right, let's rapid fire it. Let's see. Best credit card to put $30,000 tuition through Plastiq. I don't use hotel cards. Was thinking maybe the Virgin Atlantic card that rewards 25K spend. What do you guys think? Greg, I mean, you've paid big tuition through Plastiq, right? What's the best thing to use?
Yeah, I mean, I would want to use a 2X card. I think so any of the 2X cards, that's transferable points. Blue Business Plus, Venture X, or Venture, and or City Double Cash would be my picks.
I don't think you can use Capital One personal cards, only Capital One business cards. So the venture cards you can't use.
Good point.
But AmEx you can use for tuition. So that would be a good option. All right. Thomas says, I got in on the recent instant diamond status via a recent IHG snafu. Are there parts of the world where that status might be more valuable? Anybody got a lot of experience with that or thoughts?
I guess Asia is usually pretty good about recognizing status, and especially with IHG ones out there, then I think that would probably be your best bet that I can think of.
Yep. Good. All right. Holly asks, are y'all using your Capital One cards less now after they had the issue with no communication when transfers weren't working?
I'm not.
No, still using mine quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and I don't know that. It's hard to know. The lack of communication around that was quite a bummer, but it also feels pretty unlikely to me that it's Capital One. It's a massive financial institution. It seems like that's more of a tech thing and less of a insolvency thing.
Right.
So
right.
I mean, no.
I think it's a really minor risk of that A happening again and B happening for any significant amount
it's
of
more
time.
kind of incompetent communications team
right.
than anything else with that. So
Right. And that's not to excuse the incompetent communications. That was, definitely a bummer, but it's not going to stop me from using my Capital One card. The miles are valuable, and that's, I think hopefully a one-off weird situation. Ryan says, is the Vegas $20 trick still working? Anybody been in Vegas lately? Tim, you've been in Vegas, right? You
Yeah,
tried the $20 trick.
Not having a fedora on me, I felt like I wasn't properly equipped for it, and so I didn't, but I should have.
Yeah,
I was
chastised by Ryan.
I was at the grocery store yesterday, and the cashier said, I heard this thing on the radio that the $100 bill is the new 50. So, I
was going to say that the $20 trick is probably not working anymore, but the $50 trick or the $100 trick probably is.
Right. Exactly. It's time to move it on up there, Ryan. All right, let's see. Next question. Any plans to do in-person seminars more often in the near future outside of Chicago/Toronto?
I'd say there's an intent. There's not any plans. No, we haven't made plans yet, but we would like to. So hopefully getting our schedules free at the same time, even just any two of us, is a challenge. So, but we intend to. We hope to. We're gonna try.
Yep. And we did put out a call, I think, and then we put out a post saying, if you got a group of people that you can organize something and find a place, and we'll be happy to come speak. So check out that, be in our Frequent Miler Insiders Facebook group, and also I think the post would probably be on Frequent Miler. If you type in Frequent Miler events, you should find it. All right, Patrick says, do you think Cathay Pacific will ever come back to its former glory?
Whatever its former glory was.
I mean, they have been many fewer flights and routes these days, I guess, than they used to.
Well, and it'll be a long time before that's built back out, I think.
Yeah. I think it's.
But ever, I think ever. Yeah, I'm going to be optimistic.
There you go. I like Greg's optimism. Always good. All right. Why the flip flop between hosting this show on Facebook versus YouTube? Greg, are you a flip flopper? What's going on?
I'm a flip flopper. Yeah. We thought there might be more engagement on Frequent Miler Insiders because it's more of a tighter knit community than open to the entire internet. But it felt to us when we did it that it was very similar interactions and everything, whether we did on YouTube or Frequent Miler Insiders. And so YouTube is easier for people who haven't joined Frequent Miler Insiders. And also it's easier for us we always publish these to YouTube afterwards. When we record on YouTube, when we do the event on YouTube, that happens automatically, and we just have to then write it up so it makes it easier.
All right. So we're on YouTube at this point, we think, to stay. We've tested out Facebook and said, we'll go back to YouTube. All right. Yeah. Marcus says, do you recommend freezing 2 credit reporting companies before an app to force the app into one specific company, then rotating the freezing for the next app to distribute the pulls, Chase, Barclays, Bank of America? How strategic are you guys about spacing out your pulls?
Does anybody
freeze have zero strategy?
Yeah. Does anybody actually freeze? I'm just curious. Nick, you did.
Yeah. I'm not even sure, honestly, right now if they're frozen or not. But usually, yes. But that's just out of security. It's not to control. Who gets. I thaw everything if I'm going to apply for something. So it's not any kind of. The polls are so overblown. My goodness, people think they're so important, and they're just not. I mean, you're going to get a letter sometime that says that you have too many inquiries, and it doesn't mean anything. I say it all the time. We had a woman who got a letter saying she was declined for too many accounts in the last 2 years. She had opened 0 in the last 2 years. Those letters are meaningless. So when they say too many inquiries, it's not. I mean, if it were so easy for the answer to be too many inquiries, then Experian and TransUnion and Equifax would go out of business because nobody would need to buy their, complex algorithm to figure out whether or not to approve you. So condensing that into a couple of sentences for a letter is impossible. So they just pick something that they think will make you go away. So I think most people worry way too much because you'll find people that have been approved with 8 or 10 or 15 or 20 inquiries. And so that just proves the point that it's possible. Whether or not you're going to get approved, I don't know, but I don't think that the number of inquiries in most cases is really going to make that much of a difference.
I agree. I've never frozen anything, and it's been fine.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So that was not rapid fire. I apologize for the soliloquy there. All right. So when is the best time to book Cathay Business Awards using Alaska Miles? Looks like awards are non-existent right now.
Best time to book them is when they do exist.
I knew you were going to say that. When they're available. Clearly.
It's the depth that sets our analysis apart.
I think they've
I
only
mean-
just started resuming like a lot of the routes, or announced that they'll be resuming a lot of the routes. That might be why there's been no award availability recently. So hopefully that loosens up a little in the coming months.
So Duo, I
Yeah.
do want to point out though that there is still some originally when Cathay 3 weeks ago ish, Cathay started being bookable on Alaska. And when that happened, the first probably 3 or 4 days, the availability that you saw there versus where you used to have to search for Cathay being either, I used British Airways, a lot of people use Qantas or even American, in order to see Cathay's availability was fairly congruent. Now it's not. There is quite a bit of disparity between what Alaska's showing versus what, say, British Airways is showing. And I've heard of a couple people that have actually been able to still book awards through the call center with Alaska that were not visible on Alaska's website, even though they say that you can book Cathay. So it's worth backing up. If you're not seeing anything, it might be worth going on British Air or BA.com and then searching there and just seeing if you can find anything. And if you do see something's there, could be phantom, but it could also be that Alaska just hasn't fully integrated all the stuff yet. And that's partially why we're seeing so little in terms of premium cabin availability.
That's a great tip.
Very good tip.
Much better than my advice.
No, it's good. There's consolidated all into one nice
Should have
package.
gone to Tim right away. All right. Andrew says, I'm recently new Premier Platinum with United. Any tips to improve my chances on getting to an upgraded cabin with them?
Oof.
Earn 1K status. But was it United where there was that post on the Points Guy recently you would link to and around the web post where he gave some tips about how to like possibly find better upgrade chances?
He did, yeah. So there was a Points Guy post. So I think it was probably in this last weekend. So if you go back and if you type Saturday selection into the search bar on Frequent Miler, you'll find the most recent Saturday selection post. I think that I included a link to a post at the Points Guy with some strategy about how to find the flights where there might be upgrades or how to upgrade to them. But that's not really with status. That's more so like if you realize you're not going to get upgraded, how you might be able to upgrade with points. So that's not really the answer to the question here, I don't think. I mean, like fly on odd days of the week at weird times when nobody else wants to fly. I mean, that's going to increase your chance. Fly Albany to Newark at 6 o'clock in the morning and you'll get upgraded, like a 30-minute flight, So Newark
to Detroit at like 10 p.m. also works.
Right.
I know from experience.
Right. So that's, otherwise, it all just depends on who's on your flight. All right, let's see. Rosie says, Nick, I've been meaning to ask, do you speak Spanish? I forgot to ask you the last time I saw you. Solo hablo un poquito de español porque cuando era niño no quería aprender. Okay, so I didn't want to learn when I was a kid, so I only speak a little bit, and I haven't practiced it much in a long time. So only small amount. I can get by,
but that sounded awfully good.
I know it sounded so guys, because it's the same thing I say every
great.
time that I don't really speak. So I practice that a lot. Every time somebody asks, it's the same answer. So anyway, I know I didn't want to learn when I was a kid. I went to Ecuador with my wife and we taught English there for a bit when we decided we didn't want to be, in the jobs we were in the real world anymore. So I learned how to speak Spanish there, and I was actually pretty conversational when I lived in Ecuador, but that was like more than 10 years ago now. So I've lost most of it, unfortunately. Alex says, I'm sure you guys know deals that aren't public. How do you keep straight what you can talk about and what you can't? Have you ever messed up and mentioned something that you shouldn't have? Like, how do you keep those secrets secret?
I mean, I accidentally let slip one time about the fact that you can buy $1,000 Visa gift cards at Cracker Barrel, but
Stephen, you weren't supposed to say that.
Come on. There goes my dining bonus. Now AmEx is going to come after me.
I mean, I don't personally know that many deals. I mean, yes, we know some deals that aren't public, but I don't personally know that many that it's hard to keep it straight what to talk about and what not. I don't think I've ever messed up. How about you guys?
Don't think so.
Honestly, I think, and Alex, I think honestly, at least the conversations since I've been here that more often happen are is this deal safe for people? And that's something that when we may choose to talk about or not talk about or delay because we're simply not sure. Like earlier in this, I don't know if you were present when somebody asked about the paying credit cards with debit cards. That's even the hesitancy that I have even talking about that, because I know that there is a danger in that and even mentioning that stuff. And so I think that's oftentimes, a lot of times what might cause us to be restrained in terms of talking or advertising something is simply because we're actually not sure if we're going to give it to somebody and somebody will use it and then have dire consequences because of it to, getting shut down or something. And that's probably more common, I would say. Is that?
Yeah. I think, yes, I agree with that. I think we know far less secrets than you probably think we know. And the ones that we do know that we're not going to share, we're just not going to share because they were either shared with us in confidence, or there are things that we found that we know if everybody, if it gets published widely, that it won't be available anymore for anyone. And those things are so rare. They're not as common as you probably think they are. So it's never really been an issue. The things that you want to keep to yourself, you just keep to yourself. So
yeah. Also, believe it or not, the people that sort of lurk in the shadows and keep deals close to the vest don't go out of their way to share them with bloggers.
Nope.
That's not like they're so.
Not usually. No.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have some good friends out there. Thank you to those friends who do share things, but yeah, no, exactly. All right. Roth says, thoughts on the likelihood of more elevated Wyndham
Bud
business card bonus? The Bud card
Business
bonus?
card
Well, it's a Bud card.
Bud card.
They're selling those in Michigan all over
I
the place.
guess so. All right, yeah. The Wyndham Bud card.
The rewards are high.
This is a very high bonus coming on that one. Let's see.
So if I remember right, we saw a 90K bonus on the business card like maybe a year ago or something like that. But and the normal was 45K
at the moment, I think.
Yeah, it's higher than usual right now. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's possible we'll see it go back to 90K, but it seems to me that they've set the new, like the usual high bar. So it goes up and down, right? 45K to whatever it is now. And I think this is like probably what you should expect for the most part, but is it possible they'll have some special thing where they want to go even higher? Sure. I wouldn't wait to sign up for it in the hopes that that'll happen though, personally.
Okay. There you go. Thomas says, I've got all the usual cards in my wallet, but can't seem to get Capital One to approve me for any of their desirable cards due to too many new accounts, or no, rather too many accounts. Any advice on how I can break through?
Thomas, you didn't mention that you knew Greg Davis-Keene, did you?
You can break through, but they're going to break you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're fickle. Capital One's fickle.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason. It's worth taking a swing at it because, like I said, I think the importance of inquiries is so overblown. It doesn't really matter. It's worth taking a swing at it when the bonus is good, but no, there's no secret sauce. They just don't like most people that have a lot of cards, and some people that have a lot of cards get through. Nobody knows why. Again, those algorithms are super complex intentionally so that we can't figure them out and take away the business of the bureaus and people who make those decisions. All right, let's see. I think we have time for one more.
If we can do like 2 or 3 more, like super quick.
Okay, 2 or 3 more.
So like if you do this question, I'll answer it quickly.
Okay, good. Marcus says, if I want to maximize Airbnb spend, what's the best Airbnb gift cards from Office Max using the Ink, or what? I'm sorry, what's the best Airbnb gift cards from Office Max using the Ink Cash and then book through British Airways? Anything better? You book a lot of Airbnbs.
So the Ibotta app at the moment is giving 10% cash back if you buy Airbnb gift cards within the app. You have to pay by debit card. You're limited to $250 a day, but if you just stocking up at the moment, that's the best option. Otherwise, if you can wait around a couple of weeks, we'll probably see like 10 to 20% discounts from places like Best Buy leading up to the holidays and Thanksgiving, like Black Friday deals. So if you can stick around for those, then stock up on those then, because that's what I'm going to be doing.
Isn't there also like an AmEx
Best Buy
offer floating
AmEx
around?
offer?
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Oh,
there was
and
an AmEx
yeah,
offer that
and
just
AirBnB.
came out like yesterday for 100 back when you're spending 500. So yeah, that's an even better option. And British Airways offers the best return in theory, but you can also click through from deltaairbnb.com. That gives 1 Sky Mile rather than 3 Avios, but it depends on what you prefer for that.
Mm-hmm. Good. All right. Holly says, is it common for LifeMiles to trick you and show lower taxes and fees initially, and then on the final screen, it's considerably more money than you thought? Yeah.
Yeah. It's common.
They tack on like a $25 booking fee, but also the taxes are not always right until you get to the end. Better to look and see what the taxes and fees are, like booking through United or Air Canada, and then just add $25 because it should be that. Matthew says,
and then this is the last question, but given the nature of it, then I wanted to make sure that we got to this one.
Good. Just got engaged. Congratulations, Matthew.
Congratulations.
Are there any hotel chains that give you better value for hosting a destination wedding, either for extra points, loyalty status, or spend on a co-brand card? Somebody have the meeting planner thing in mind, or anything? You guys know anything about this?
Jeez.
I know a friend who just got married at I think it was like a courtyard on the beach in Puerto Rico, and so I'm guessing that he did that because there would be some kind of good reward program and stuff, because he travels a lot, and so I imagine that he knows the ins and outs of that kind of thing. So it might be that Marriott might be a good option to go through there, but I don't know that for sure.
I think Marriott has the meeting thing. If you're like, and I assume that the wedding would count as a meeting. You have to book 10 rooms in order to get the elite nights now, I think, but that'd be easy if you're hosting a wedding. So you can get some elite nights with Marriott, and I think that you get some amount of points, but I don't know.
Yeah, you do. Most programs have something like, so Hyatt has some kind of meeting planner, rewards, and IHG does too. So
that's what you want to look for. Meeting planner, like type in IHG meeting planner, Hyatt meeting planner. Good
point. Yeah. I don't know which is best though.
Yeah, I don't either. So
all right. I think our time is up.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks everyone. I'm glad we had a chance to come see everybody again, and we'll be back on the first Wednesday of December, and right back here on YouTube. Yes. So thanks guys. And sorry, Carrie couldn't make it tonight. It's her husband's birthday, but hopefully she'll be with us next time. Yeah. Happy birthday, Drew.